Hey everyone, Tim Streifler here with Divi Life, and we are back with another Divi tutorial, how to speed up your Divi website in 5 steps. A alternate title for this tutorial could be the 5 most crucial things for a fast loading website. This is not a exhaustive list. This isn't everything that you can do to speed up and optimize your Divi website, but these are the 5 most impactful things. These things will make the greatest difference in speeding up your website with Divi. So super excited for this tutorial. This is a very common question in the Divi community. How do I speed up my Divi site? A lot of people complain about Divi's performance. And the bottom line is Divi is a page builder. There is lots of functionality and features and design tools. And so with that, there is a small sacrifice of slightly slower speeds out of the box, so unoptimized. However, if you implement the steps in this video and you optimize the site and you do all these best practice things, well, then your website will load very fast, regardless of the theme you're using. But yes, if you compare Divi to a non-page builder theme, then it'll load a little bit slower out of the box. It's also worth noting before I dive into this that Divi or Elegant Themes is going to have a major performance overhaul for Divi, and so it's going to drastically speed up Divi websites without having to do anything. However, these things that in this tutorial, these 5 steps, these are still best practice regardless of that Divi performance overhaul. That's just going to help things out of the box. And so don't think that you're going to be wasting your time and tomorrow Divi comes out with a performance update, that sort of a thing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the tutorial here. So I'm going to be following the blog post for this tutorial from the Divi Life blog here. And one thing I want to say, so here's the 5 steps we're going to be going over, but I wanted to show you a little bit of proof so you can see that we know what we're talking about here. This is a GTmetrix screenshot of a report that I ran, or a test that I ran just yesterday on the divilife.com website, and you can see this is a great score. This is not a perfect score, but it's a great score, and it's very fast. And so we got the score by implementing the things that I'm teaching in this tutorial, these 5 very impactful steps to speed up your site. There is room for improvement. However, the Divi Life website is a high traffic, high functioning e-commerce site. And I say high functioning, meaning there's a lot going on. There's the e-commerce store, there's the licensing system, we have our affiliate program, our support system. Then we have all of these various third-party services that we integrate with, and so all those things have the potential to slow the website down. But despite all of that, we still have a very good score because of these best practices that we implemented on the site. And so you can get a score like this, or probably better if you're not integrating with all the third-party stuff that we're integrating with on our site. So yeah, super excited to show you this. So step 1, use great hosting. Now this is the first step because it's the most important. It's the foundation of everything. Your website, your hosting company, your server is like the digital or the physical home for your digital online presence. It's super important. And there's an analogy here that I use in the blog post. If you were a restaurant owner, you wouldn't want your building to have leaks in the ceiling and poor plumbing and unreliable electricity and no heating and cooling, right? That would just drive customers out the door. And the same thing goes with your hosting. If you have a server that is super slow, doesn't have the proper resources, is unreliable, it goes down, that's going to send customers for the back button and probably to never return again, which as a result, that's going to affect your search engine rankings as well, because search engines want fast websites. And so super, super important. So a lot of people kind of skip this step and they go to all the other things down the list, and they're able to optimize crappy hosting, and they're able to optimize their way into decent speeds. And that might work, You might get lucky for a while, but then all of a sudden your traffic tanks, and because your website performance is down because your really crappy hosting that you used is cramming websites on the same server as you, and some of those sites are getting a lot of traffic, so it's slowing down everyone else. And so that's what can happen with shared hosting. It's happened to me before. And so again, you might get lucky. You might be able to use really cheap hosting for a long time, but it can and will likely eventually catch up to you. And so so we have a couple of hosting companies that we recommend. And so I want to say, so these are affiliate links. I like to throw out that disclaimer, be clear about that. If you click one of our affiliate links and purchase a hosting plan, we will get a small commission, no added cost to you whatsoever. However, we are not a company that makes our money from affiliate revenue. This is just an added thing that we do to supplement the cost of putting out these tutorials. We make our money from selling Divi plugins, child themes, templates, memberships, that sort of thing. And so we put these affiliate links in here with the caveat that these are the hosting companies that we are currently using right now. These aren't hosting companies that have good reputations and everyone else recommend. These are the actual hosting companies that power Divi Life and the various parts of our business. And so we recommend them because we actually use them. And so we put our money where our mouth is, so to speak. And so yes, there are affiliate links, but they're affiliate links with a lot of trust and confidence and years of using them. And so another thing about this list here is this is not a complete list. These aren't the only 3 companies that'll give you fast loading Divi websites. There's a lot of great companies out there. And so these are just the ones that we use and we trust, and we have been using for some of them 5+ years. And so so let's go ahead and dive into this here. So the first company is SiteGround. SiteGround is a awesome hosting company and is definitely a lower cost solution. So going back to the blog post here, I have 3 options. I have low cost, mid-level, and then top of the line premium hosting. So SiteGround is going to be your low cost provider. However, you get a lot of value for the money. So with prices starting at $5 a month, $8 a month, $15 a month for unlimited. So a lot of value. So SiteGround is really great. This is, again, the low-cost solution, so you don't get as many bells and whistles as some of the 2 other companies we're going to talk about next. But you get fast hosting, you get reliable hosting, and you get decent customer support too. I've never had a problem. I've had great customer support there. I've heard mixed reviews from other people, but I've always had great support. So SiteGround is really great. It's fast front end and fast back end. So some companies, it's like they optimize for the front end, but then the back end WordPress is really slow, so it's annoying to work with. SiteGround and the others all have really fast back ends too. So that is SiteGround. All of our Divi child themes are actually hosted on SiteGround. And so we trust our product demo sites with SiteGround. So the next company here is Flywheel. Now, Flywheel is our mid-level hosting provider. And so they kind of target freelancers and small agencies that are building a lot of customer websites and stuff like that. But you can also just sign up for a single website too. And so Flywheel starts at $12 a month if you're paying annually for one website, which is really good considering that this is premium hosting, so to speak, or managed hosting. And so it's a really good deal. Now, what I like about Flywheel is, in addition to fast hosting, reliable hosting, is you get a lot of extras too. So for example, you get automated daily backups. They're on automatically. Don't have to turn them on. They're on. And so any website you have with Flywheel, it's automatically backed up each and every day, which is huge. And you can one-click and restore at any point. So if you need to restore a backup, you can do that. And then of course you can do one-click backups too. So if you just did a bunch of work on the site and then you're going to do some updates, well, then you can back up before doing the updates. Another thing is they give you one-click staging. So you can copy your site to a staging environment to do updates and then push it live. They also give you some built-in caching as well. And we're going to talk more about caching here in a minute, but they give you some server level caching, which will speed up your site. And they also give you additional security benefits too. And so it minimizes the need to install an additional security plugin. So Flywheel is awesome. They've been around for a while. They got acquired by WP Engine, which is our premium hosting recommendation that we'll talk about next. But they still operate as a separate company. And so one thing worth noting is Flywheel, as well as SiteGround, are actually two of the official Elegant Themes Divi recommended hosting companies. And so that's not why we use them. That's not why we recommend them. We've been using them well before they partnered with Elegant Themes, but that just reaffirms that we made good hosting choices and utilizing good companies that Elegant Themes agrees and says that, hey, these are two of the best companies for Divi sites. And so that's Flywheel. Now let's talk about WP Engine, our top of the line premium level hosting. So Flywheel, our plugin demo sites are hosted with Flywheel. So our Divi overlays demo, so divipopup.com is hosted on Flywheel. Our divimegapro.com website's hosted there. divihacks.com is hosted on Flywheel. And so Flywheel has been great. We love it. So WP Engine is actually where divilife.com is hosted. So this website where this tutorial is, we've been hosting with WP Engine since DiviLife was founded over 5 years ago. So been very happy with WP Engine. We're now on a dedicated server, and that's kind of what WP Engine specializes in, is high traffic websites, like enterprise level websites. And so they know how to handle websites that get a lot of traffic. And so they were kind of the first ones, or one of the first ones that kind of came into the premium WordPress hosting space. And so, or managed WordPress hosting. And so they've been around for a while, and they have all those same bells and whistles that I mentioned with Flywheel, with the automated backups, one-click backups, one-click restore, one-click staging, CDN, stack path, additional security things. And then another thing that's really important is they actually monitor all their servers. So it really is managed. They're managing to make sure that you're not getting attacked and you're not overutilizing your resources and stuff like that. So even though we're on a dedicated server, they're still managing those things. So for example, just last week, I got an email from my WP Engine account manager, and they said, hey, we noticed that your traffic spiked, or the number of requests to your server spiked at this time on this date. Like, was that expected behavior? Were you doing something that would warrant that type of spike? And so I said, no, like that wasn't an intentional thing at all. And so they gave me some more information. We were able to kind of pinpoint the website and IP address that it was coming from. And we were able to block that IP address because we were able to determine that it wasn't just normal behavior. It could have been potentially malicious. So that's the kind of experience you get with WP Engine, which is huge. And so for a company like us, where our website is our business, we need that website being secure because we have customers putting in their credit cards. We need the website to always be up and online and always be fast. And so for all these reasons, it's why we trust WP Engine. Not just with our website, but our website is our business. So we're really trusting them with our business. So WP Engine is fantastic. Cannot speak more highly of them. It is more expensive than Flywheel and more expensive than SiteGround, but you really, really get a lot of good value for the money. And really, really great customer support as well, technical support. And same thing with Flywheel. Both companies have amazing support. All based in the U.S., I believe. Not that there isn't great support when there's people that are outside the US, but yeah, it can potentially affect the quality of support. So it's been really great. So that's WP Engine. And actually, if you click on our link, you actually get 10% off if you purchase through our affiliate link. Again, you can choose to click on the links or just go into Google directly. We're not recommending these companies because of affiliate income. We're recommending them because these are the companies that we use, that we trust for our websites, for our business. And so that is hosting. Hosting is the backbone of your website, is the most crucial thing to having a fast website. Don't skip this step. If you're serious about your website and having a lot of good speed, then you definitely need really good hosting. So step 2 is use proper caching. This is the second most impactful thing that you can do for a fast loading website. Let me just give you a quick rundown on what caching is. WordPress websites store content, they store data in the database. And the way WordPress works is it goes to fetch that content each and every time a website visitor loads a page. So if it lands on the blog, just the general blog feed, it's going to go up, fetch all the most recent posts and bring them back down and show you the feed. And then if you just load a single blog post or a single page, it's going to go to the database, grab the most recent version of the content and come down and build the page. And so to do that, every time someone loads that page and every page after that, it's a lot of time. It slows down your site, and it also uses up extra resources too, having the server have to do that WordPress loop over and over again. And so caching is really clever concept, and it'll say, hey, this page right here, it's the same today as it was an hour ago and yesterday. Let's just show a static version of that. And so rather than going up to the database and building it dynamically, let's just take that static version and serve it directly to the user right away, similar to a way a static HTML website would work. And so that's significantly faster and uses significantly less server resources. And so having proper caching set up will make your website so much faster. And so both WP Engine and Flywheel, our mid-level and premium hosting recommendations, both have server level caching built in. And so I'm not going to, there's a lot of different types of caching. I just kind of gave you a very elementary rundown of caching. But they have, I think, page caching, object caching, and maybe one or two other types of caching that's kind of built into their infrastructure, which means you don't have to add a plugin or anything. And it's built in and it's awesome. It works great. However, I typically will install an additional caching plugin on top of that to give me further optimizations, because the server level caching doesn't quite do everything. It doesn't do all the file optimization and lazy loading and cache preloading and stuff like that. And so for that, I use WP Rocket. Now, WP Rocket's actually the only cache plugin that's allowed on WP Engine and Flywheel, because they went the extra mile to make sure that they deactivated anything that could possibly conflict with the server level caching. And then, so it does that automatically. It just deactivates once it recognizes that it's on one of those two hosting companies. And so WP Rocket is great. That's actually why I started using it, because it was the only one allowed. But now, regardless, it's my preferred caching plugin. And so it is by far the best cache plugin that I've used. Again, this is an affiliate link. You can click on it. You can go to Google and type in WP Rocket. If you don't want to click on the affiliate link, that's fine. It's no added cost to you. But the reason why it's on here is this is what we use. We use it on all of our websites, DiviLife.com, DiviPopup.com, DiviHacks.com, DiviMegaPro.com, and so on and so forth. So we use it, we love it, and that's why we recommend it. And so there's a lot of features and functionalities built into it. If you just go and buy WP Rocket and do the one-click install, which kind of installs or turns on all the default settings, you will see a lot of performance improvements. And that's kind of their base level feature set. However, there's additional features that you can turn on and tweak. And I highly recommend that you do that. You will see even more performance benefits if you do that. However, the reason why they don't turn those on by default is they are more likely to potentially conflict with different functionality on your site. And so it's not a one size fits all. And so you have to test. And so I always recommend doing a speed test with GTmetrix and then turn on a feature, make sure it didn't break anything on your site, and then do another speed test to see if it actually improved your speed. And sometimes it won't. Sometimes it'll make it worse. And so kind of doing that process of testing and turning stuff on, and it's a little bit of trial and error. And the more you do it, the more you understand what it is and how it works and how it's likely to affect things. And another great thing I love about WP Rocket is they have really great little help hints along the way that'll tell you what different things are, and then you can click and read more information, and it'll teach you what it's doing and why it's beneficial and what you need to be aware of. And so really, really great documentation all along the way, integrated throughout the product. So super great. And so I've seen people recommend like, oh, here's the best settings for WP Rocket on Divi or WP Rocket in general. And the reason why I don't think that's a good idea is it's not a one size fits all. Every website is different, whether depending on the settings you're using in Divi, the way you have the page built, the features you have turned on, your server environment will affect it. And then the additional plugins and tools and stuff like that you're using on your site. All of those things come into play when configuring a performance optimization plugin like WP Rocket. And so it's not a one size fits all. So I'm not going to tell you what to turn on and stuff because it might break your site or it might give you worse performance than it does on mine. So really it's a process of going in and learning what it does and testing it and making sure it doesn't break your site. However, if something does break, you don't necessarily have to turn it off right away on your site. Turn off the feature that broke that functionality. WP Rocket has some exclusions that you can do that will basically exclude a part of the page or a file or something from being optimized in that way. And so it's really handy. So for example, Divi's animations will typically conflict with WP Rocket's image lazy loading. And so rather than just turning lazy loading completely off or turning Divi's animations off, if you want those, you can exclude those images or those modules or that section from being lazy loaded in WP Rocket. So there's really cool features like that are built into WP Rocket so that you can tweak it to fit your website exactly the way you need. So WP Rocket is awesome. I highly recommend. There are other cache plugins out there, whether they're plugins that are free or other premium ones. This is what we use, and therefore this is what we recommend. So that's why it's on this list. Okay, the next step for optimizing your Divi website is to use optimized images, both compressed and properly sized. So this is huge, and it's huge because images are a huge part of websites, and I mean huge in two ways. One, in the importance. They're super important in terms of design and content. And then they're also huge in terms of the weight, the file size compared to your overall website. And so if you were to strip out all the images of your site, your website would load drastically faster, but it would also look drastically crappier. And so you can't just get rid of images. So instead, we're going to properly optimize them so that you can still have great images and still have a fast loading website. And so there's essentially two types of optimization. One is to resize, so resize the image so that it's not bigger than it needs to be. So for example, if you have a really nice camera, it might export out like 5,000 pixel wide images. You don't need 5,000 pixel wide images on any web page ever. And so, so you can properly resize them so that if you only have the image being used and taking up 700 pixels in the page, then you only need the image to be that size. And so you don't need it to be 5,000 pixels wide. So that's the first part, is resizing them properly. And then the second part is compression. So actually compressing the images to make them smaller in weight. So you can actually compress an image without resizing it, and it'll make it significantly smaller file size. And compression is pretty complicated. It uses complex algorithms to basically group similar parts of data or similar pixels. And so rather than just repeating the file, repeating itself over and over again. So it's way over my head, but it's very complex, but it's very powerful too. It also will strip out unnecessary information like the metadata of the photo, like the camera and lens and location and all those things that you typically don't need on a web image. So within image compression, there's actually two different types of compression. There's lossless and there's lossy, and pretty self-explanatory. Lossless just means there's no loss in quality, no quality degradation. It's going to look exactly the same. And then lossy is the other end of the spectrum, where it's going to reduce the quality, reduce the resolution, make it look not as good. And then you can kind of have everything in between. And so the tool that we recommend for image optimization is Imagify. And so there used to be another tool that I would recommend, another plugin that worked pretty good. And it took me a while to try Imagify. But once I tried Imagify, it was like night and day. Imagify had much, much better compression and would get the images a lot smaller, and therefore make my websites load a lot faster. And so I'm not going to tell you what that tool is, because I don't want to speak negatively of it, because overall it is a good tool. It's just not as good. So just focusing on Imagify as being the tool of choice. And so I can actually show you their website here. And I forgot to show you WP Rocket as well. So WP Rocket, awesome. And actually Imagify is by the same company, so they integrate really well together. So going back to WP Rocket, I use their Infinite plan, because I use it on more than 3 websites, but you can upgrade along the way. So I started with single, upgraded to plus, upgraded to Infinite. So that's really great. And then Imagify, I can't remember how their pricing is done. Okay, so it's by space or by how much it's compressing, and then you can do unlimited. So I think I do unlimited. So yeah, it is pricey, but it works really well. I mean, it's pricey because it's not free, but overall, I think it's a really good value. So that's WP Rocket and Imagify. And again, I've tried others. Imagify works best, in my opinion, not in my opinion, in my objective testing. It actually got the page to load faster and the image is smaller. And so that's why I choose Imagify. And then it is really nice because it does integrate with WP Rocket. And so, you don't have to use it. If you use a different caching plugin, you can still use Imagify, or if you use a different image compression, you can still use WP Rocket. So they don't rely on each other by any means. Another cool benefit of Imagify is it will create and serve WebP images for you. WebP is the latest standard of image file types for websites. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Google is the one that kind of pioneered WebP. And so they're kind of ones pushing that. But it is significantly smaller than PNG and JPEG and so forth. But what's really cool is if the browser doesn't support WebP, which most modern browsers do, but if someone happens to be on a really outdated computer that doesn't support WebP, then it'll fall back to PNG or JPEG. So it won't just not show an image. So that's Imagify. That's really great. Love it. Highly recommend it. Again, this is what we use on all of our websites. So step 4 is to use good plugins, and only the plugins you need. Now, I say this with a bit of a disclaimer that plugins are not bad. Divi Life, we sell plugins, we create plugins, we love plugins. We have a lot of plugins on our website. It's just you want to be careful about the plugins that you're putting on your site, and if you don't need a plugin, then don't put it on there. And so people will typically say like, oh, well, what's, the limit of plugins I should have on a website. Like, how many is too many? And there isn't a number, because you can have like 100 tiny plugins that do barely anything that'll be less overall code that your server has to process and the browser has to load than maybe 5 super heavy bloated plugins. And so it's not about the number, it's about the overall code. And there's the PHP processing side of the server, which is pretty much eliminated if you have good caching in place. And then there's the browser side, loading the scripts and the styling and stuff like that. And so plugins will typically add scripts and everything. And the default way that WordPress plugins work is it will load all the assets for the plugin on all pages of your website. So for example, if you have a contact form plugin, most contact form plugins will load all the files needed to power that contact form on every page of the site. So all the front end assets. And so even if you only have a form on your contact page, you're still going to be loading those assets. And so that's why you want to be careful. There's a ripple effect. And every decision needs to be taken seriously when it comes to plugins and your website and so forth. And if you only need something on one page, then just be aware that it's still going to be, in most cases, loaded on your other website pages too. And so on that topic too, that's always important to install plugins from companies and developers that you trust, that have good reputations, that have performance in mind. So at Divi Life, for example, all of our Divi plugins, we have performance in mind, and we're constantly optimizing and stuff. And so, for example, Divi Overlay is our most popular plugin. There was a part of the plugin that in certain situations for certain customers was slowing down the site. It was the type of thing that with proper optimization, it makes zero impact, but we've changed it. We completely reworked the plugin so that our customers could not be affected and still have a fast loading website. And so you want to purchase plugins and install plugins from companies that have that mentality and so forth. And that's actually one of the reasons why I almost exclusively use premium plugins. If it's a small little plugin, that's free, I'll use it. But if it's a big part of the site, I don't want a free plugin that has no monetary incentive to keep things running really smoothly and maintain the plugin and support the plugin. Unless it's a freemium model, then they have that incentive. But that's why people say, oh, I don't want to pay for another plugin. It's like, well, I only want to pay for a plugin when it comes to my business, at least. If this was a hobby, a side thing, then yeah, I get that. But if it's for a business or for a client, then having premium plugins by serious companies is the only way to go. So that's enough for step 4. And the reason why this is part of this list is one bad plugin can just bring down your entire site in terms of performance. So step 5, and this is an optional step, and that is use a CDN, which is a content delivery network, unless your traffic is purely local. So a CDN will take the heaviest parts of your websites and copy them to servers all around the world. And then depending on where the website visitor is geographically, it will serve them that website or those parts of the website from the server that's closest to them. And so it makes a big impact. If you have a website visitor in Australia, but your server is located in the United States, well, that's going to take long to, go part of the way around the world to load that page for them. And so if you have a content delivery network and you can get that website closer to them geographically, then it's going to dramatically speed up your site. Now, this is only important, though, if you have traffic coming nationally or internationally from different parts of the country or world. If you are a small local business or your client's a small local business, then you don't need a CDN. What you need is a hosting company that has servers or data centers as close to you as possible, your region of the country or world. So that's what's important. One thing worth noting is some companies, hosting companies, will have servers around the world, and you can choose the data center that's best for you based off of where your traffic's coming from. And so sometimes you don't know that, and so there might be a better option. So it's worth looking into to see if your hosting company has other data centers, other servers that might be closer. So reach out to them. So that is a CDN. The CDNs that we currently use and recommend, there's 3 of them. There's a little bit of overlap. One is Cloudflare. Cloudflare is kind of a CDN, kind of not. They're like security with speed, and it's kind of confusing. We won't go into the details, but we do use Cloudflare on every single website that we build. And then a more truer sense of a CDN, or more formal CDN, is StackPath. They used to be called Max CDN. And so StackPath is actually partnered with WP Engine. So all WP Engine customers have StackPath integrated to their hosting, which is awesome. It just happens automatically. You don't have to configure or set anything up. And then same thing with WP Rocket. It doesn't come with it. It's an add-on, but StackPath is Rocket CDN. And so they rebranded it. They make it clear that it's StackPath. But if you turn on Rocket CDN, you're actually using StackPath. And so, and it's actually really easy, one click, which is nice. And so if you go and sign up for StackPath by itself, you have to configure different things, where with WP Rocket CDN, it's one click. So it's super simple, super easy, and it'll speed up your website. But again, only if you need it. Only if your traffic is coming from different areas of your country or from around the world. So that's the 5 things to speed up your Divi website. This is not a step-by-step tutorial, in case you haven't guessed by now. We're not actually optimizing a site on this tutorial. However, we do have a tutorial coming up. So if you sign up to our email list, you'll be notified where we're actually going to break down. We're going to optimize a website, an e-commerce site from start to finish, a real e-commerce site. This isn't a demo site. It's a real site selling real products. And we're going to optimize it, and you can watch as we do that in the tutorial for a real site and see exactly what we do and how we go about it. So sign up to our email list. If you're not already, you can sign up in the footer here, and you'll be notified when that training is available. And so, before we go though, we do have a bonus. Now, this isn't really for speeding up the front end of your website for website visitors, but this will make the building process smoother. It'll make the visual builder run smoother in your browser. And so a lot of times people will blame Divi, or they'll blame their hosting company, when really it's on their end with their computer. So Divi is website building software. Software requires resources to run smoothly. Yes, a lot of those resources are coming from the server, but you also need to have your browser and your computer have enough resources to process that and run that smoothly. And so make sure you have a computer with significant RAM, or upgrade your RAM if you need to. Use a modern browser, and then make sure your browser is up to date. And then this one is huge, and I'm guilty of this all the time, is close unnecessary tabs, windows, apps on your computer. It's like I'm doing so many different things at once. I have different windows with a bunch of tabs each, and then different browsers, and then I have multiple heavy apps running at one time. And so close things you don't need. Give Divi your full attention, and it'll run so much smoother. So hopefully this was helpful to you. Again, these are the 5 things that will have the greatest impact on speeding up your website. Great hosting, proper caching, optimized images, good plugins, and then a CDN, unless your traffic is purely local. So hopefully you found this helpful. Again, we're going to be doing a full tutorial where we step-by-step break down and actually optimize a real e-commerce site. So sign up to our email list. You can do that from the footer of divilife.com, and so you'll be notified when that training is available. It's going to be in-depth. And so, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, or let us know if there's something major that we skipped. So again, this isn't a complete list. There's all these little things you can do for optimization that, depending on your site, may have a big impact. It may not. but maybe there was something that we skipped that should be mentioned. That is a bigger thing that should be part of our list. So let us know in the comments. And yeah, we will see you on the next tutorial. Take care. Bye-bye.